The research outpost on Draken 7 had stood silent for 3 cycles, its sensors humming peacefully in the violet twilight. Dr. Elias Rowan had grown accustomed to the solitude, his days filled with cataloging the indigenous fauna of this uncharted world. But nothing in his 15 years of xenobiology could have prepared him for what approached his compound that evening. The ground trembled first. Then came the sound, a keening wail that seemed to tear the very atmosphere apart. A mother's grief given voice across the cosmos. Elias rushed to his observation deck and his breath caught in his throat. She was magnificent and terrible in equal measure. Thalara, though he did not yet know her name, was a creature of legend-made flesh. Her scales shimmered like liquid starlight, each one the size of a human hand reflecting the binary sun's dying light. Her wings, vast enough to eclipse small moons, were folded tight against her serpentine body as she crawled toward his outpost. But it was her tears that stopped Elias's heart. They fell like molten silver, hissing as they struck the crystalline ground, leaving scorched craters in their wake. Each droplet seemed to carry the weight of worlds, and where they landed, the very stone melted and reformed, twisted by a mother's anguish. In her forelimbs, cradled with a gentleness that defied her massive size, was a small form, a cub, no larger than a human child, its scales dulled to ash gray, its breathing shallow and labored. Elias's training screamed at him to seal the compound, to activate defensive protocols. The dragons of Draken 7 were apex predators, intelligent and fiercely territorial. Contact was forbidden. Every regulation, every safety measure demanded he hide. Instead, he opened the outer airlock. The dragon mother's head swung toward him, eyes like twin galaxies fixing upon his fragile form. She could have incinerated him with a breath, crushed him with a thought. Her kind had toppled civilizations, or so the expedition logs claimed. Yet in those ancient eyes, Elias saw something he recognized, something that transcended species, transcended worlds, desperation, hope, a parent's love. "I see you," Elias said softly, his voice carried by the translation implant behind his ear. He had no idea if she would understand, if the device could even process her language. "I see your pain." Thalara's massive head lowered, bringing her face level with the human who stood barely as tall as her smallest talon. From her throat came sounds, clicks, harmonics, subsonic rumbles that made Elias's bones vibrate. The translator struggled, then locked on. "Healer who walks on too. My stars-born child fades. Your kind's poison light touched him. Please. Radiation." The expedition's survey drones must have exposed the cub. Elias felt his stomach twist with guilt. Humanity's fingerprint on yet another innocent life. But guilt was a luxury. Time was not. "Bring him inside," Elias commanded, his voice steadier than his hands. Quickly. The medical bay was never designed for a creature of crystal and flame, but Elias had spent years adapting human medicine to alien physiology. His scanners painted a grim picture: cellular breakdown, genetic corruption, systems failing in cascade. The cub had hours at best. Thalara's massive form filled the bay's entrance. Her neck craned inside, watching with those cosmic eyes as this tiny human worked. Her tears continued to fall, and Elias found himself working around puddles of molten stone, the acrid smell of scorched metal filling the air. "Talk to him," Elias said as he calibrated the genetic sequencer. "Let him hear your voice." The dragon mother's song filled the compound, a haunting melody that spoke of nest warmth and star flights, of a universe vast and beautiful. It was a lullaby old before humanity had learned to make fire, and it made Elias's eyes burn with tears he couldn't spare time to shed. The solution came not from human science alone, but from Thalara herself. Her tears, Elias realized, weren't just expressions of grief. They were biological responses, carrying enzymes, proteins, compounds that could rebuild at the molecular level. Evolution had given her species the power to heal through love made manifest. Working through the night, Elias synthesized a treatment combining human medical technology with Thalara's own biology. He used her tears as a base, filtering out the destructive heat while preserving their regenerative properties, then delivered them directly into the cub's failing system via nanite carriers. For 3 hours, nothing happened. Thalara's song never wavered, though her voice grew hoarse and broken. Elias monitored the readings, adjusting, compensating, refusing to accept failure. Then, as the first sun crested the horizon, The cub's scales flickered. Once. Twice. Color began to seep back into them like dawn breaking over dark waters. First bronze, then gold. Then that same liquid starlight as his mother's. His eyes opened. Thalara's roar of joy shook the compound's foundations. She pulled her cub close, her tears now falling in relief rather than grief, and this time they didn't scorch the ground. They evaporated into shimmering mist, filling the bay with the scent of ozone and hope. When she finally turned to Elias, she pressed her massive forehead against the observation glass, gentle as a whisper. The translator crackled with her words, "Healer who walks on two. You have given back the stars. My kind will remember. When your people need call across the void, we will answer." As mother and cub took to the skies, their wings catching the double sunrise, Elias watched them disappear into clouds that seemed to part in reverence. He thought of every regulation he'd broken, every protocol he'd violated, and he smiled. Because in that moment, watching a healed dragon cub play in the wind currents beside his mother, Elias Rowan understood what it truly meant to be human. Not the rules they followed or the technology they wielded, but the choice to extend a hand when it would be easier to close a door, the choice to heal rather than harm, the choice to love across the infinite distances between worlds.